Greetings. My name is Adam Rafferty, and in this series of guitar videos, I'm going to teach you how to play my arrangement of the Beatles classic entitled Let It Be. Let It Be, I believe, was the last record the Beatles put out, or the second to last, I'm not quite sure. This song was recorded in 1970. I just looked it up on Wikipedia. And it's a classic. And actually, even though it's credited to Lennon and McCartney, Paul McCartney pretty much composed this and he sang it. And the way that I play it, just to give you a little bit of a bearing, we're in standard tuning, but capoed at the 3rd fret. Now, it's in the key of C, but I play it based around an A chord shape because it just somehow made it more manageable as I was figuring out which key and which position to do this in. Now, something that I'd like to show you that will come up quite a bit in this piece, there's two techniques in particular. One is I want you to start thinking about an A chord like this. And we'll do close-ups on the subsequent lessons, so if you don't see it on this wide cam, don't worry. But with your first finger on the 3rd strings and the 2nd and 3rd finger on the 4th and 2nd strings. So it's kind of like if you were going to play an A7 chord with your 2nd and 3rd finger, but you snuck your first finger in behind it. We don't normally think of A chords like that, but this chord shape helps me get in and out of certain situations on Let It Be. The other thing that I also want you to think about that I do that really makes things easier for me is the idea of planting a finger on the right hand on the E string, the high E string. That really helps make it easy for another finger to pluck from the B string onward, so it allows me to really know that I'm not going to crash into an open E string. So I'm doing a lot of muting. So those are two techniques that are going to come up quite a bit. Alrighty, so let's get started with the intro of Let It Be. All right. Alrighty, let's get started with the intro of Let It Be. This intro is on the original recording, Paul McCartney playing piano chords. So I do my best to get the chord voicing. So let's get started. Okay, for the first chord voicing, I recommend doing just a good old C bar chord up at the 8th fret. If you don't have the strength in your hand for a bar chord, you can do this with the open string. Now, I did this on my YouTube video, but I found that if these two notes are not exactly in tune, the chord can sound a little bit off. And there's something about the presence of this note, this 5th here, the G, that helps make the chord a little bit more rich and sound less out of tune. So we're going to strum 2 of these. Then we're going to go down to an E shape. It's actually a G chord, but it looks like an E shape. Now watch, we're going to go to 5th fret and strum an A minor chord once, like this. And then here's what I like to do. I lift these fingers, I put the 3rd finger on the 4th string, and I go like this with a pull off. I mean, there's a couple different ways you could do that. If you want to do it with your pinky, that's fine. But we need this line. Bum, bum, bum. So far, it's going to sound like this. C, G, You could even pluck it twice with your thumb. Now watch. I have something that I've changed a little bit since the original YouTube video, and I'm still not 100% decided, but this is how I like to do this. Bar the top 3 strings here, and then you can either strum or pluck. Okay, and then all by itself, you need to play this note because we want to have the illusion of this voice going like that. You might even want to consider over here on the right hand, just plucking the top 2 strings, and then you could even hammer. I do that sometimes. So we really hear ba ba. That's a very important part of the piano intro. If you're an experienced player, if you'd like to play this, that's fine, but that's kind of how I do it. Okay, so far, one more time. Okay. Next, you can come down to an A-shaped chord, and you want to hammer the pinky. We want to hammer this note on. So one way to do it is like 2, 3, 4. And I'm being very careful to mute the E string there. I'm trying to really strum from the 5th string. If that doesn't work, you could do this formation, 1st finger, 3rd string, and 2nd and 3rd finger on the 2nd and 4th string. Or I should say 3rd, 1st, 2nd. So it's a little easier to hammer that note on. If you can get it twice, great. Then 2 E chords, which are actually G chords. Okay, now watch this. You're going to do what looks like a D chord, and you're going to hammer on that top note. And now watch. So I'm going, and 2nd fret and 2nd string, open 1st string, and then a full A chord, but making sure that the 2nd string is the highest melody note. Now, one other thing that I'd like to show you is I'm very lightly doing sort of a back of the fingernails strum on the 2nd and the 4th beat. So I'm going soft with my thumb here. Let's go back to the very beginning. And then a little bit more of a bite on that one. So it's not equal. I'm going. So we get a little bit of a feeling of a beat. Back, back. Okay? I'm going to play the whole intro for you right now. I'm going to try to go slow. Here we are. Here we go. 1, 2, and 3, 4. And because I really want that top note to be the only top note that I'm hearing, the 2nd string, over here on the right hand, I am muting the top E string. Alrighty, so that is the intro. Let's go to bars 1 and 2 of the verse. All right. Alrighty. We are at the first verse of Let It Be. Now, in the original song, there are 3 verses. In this arrangement, we're just going to do 2. Sort of gets the point across melodically, and without lyrics, I think 2 is certainly enough. And nobody really misses it if they're not hearing the words. So what happens in the first verse is it's much, how can I say this? It's rather straight because there's no drums yet. So we're taking into account the fact that there are no drums going on. So the lyric here is, when I find myself in times of trouble. Let's do that much. Let's just do the melody first. 4th string. When I find myself. Now, a peculiar thing that I am doing now that I didn't do in the YouTube video is I'm just hammering that note to sound the melody. I kind of like the way that feels rhythmically, but you can also pluck it if you want to go. So let me show you what I'm doing with the bass. We're going to have just straight, what are called quarter notes in the bass as much as possible for this first verse. It's like boom, 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 boom. So we're going, when I find. So you're going to plug the 4th and 5th string together. You do the hammer on and then a bass note. When I 1, 2, ready, and when I find myself. See where the bass note came? And then in. Now 6th string over here, times of. Now there's 2 options. Here's the one that I suggest you do. I like that because it has that ringy sound. I'm playing the 5th fret there with my 2nd finger, and then the 2nd string, and I'm muting with the 3rd finger. So I'm doing this first one with the 1st finger, and then I'm moving it out of the way and I'm going to the 2nd finger. When I find myself, oh, sorry, when and what you really want to focus on right away here, and if you've been a student of mine for a while, you'll know that I'm a real stickler about rhythm. What you want to focus on is how heavyweight the groove can be on this. Very often people think, wow, you know, Superstition by Stevie Wonder, that's a groove tune, but Let It Be, maybe that's a pretty tune. And we don't want to think like that. You want to think right off the bat, heavy beat. So boom, 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 boom. That's your thumb, because that's going to have to be there even when it's not sounding super funky. So I'm going bum 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 bum. Okay. Next, we're here with the 2nd finger. Now I'm doing this with my thumb over the top. I will figure out an alternative for you. See what I'm doing? I'm hammering the 3rd finger on. And you'll see I have a chord written there. You can either do that with 1 finger on the right hand, just drag a finger across 2 strings, or 2 fingers. So I'm going bass, pull off. Let's see how I would do that if I didn't do thumb over the top. You could do it with your 3rd finger and then go like, see? 3. Okay, so there's an alternative. Let's look for another one. Do it with your first finger, and then that's a little bit awkward though. I would probably go third finger. I like doing it thumb over the top. But if you're on nylon string, that's very difficult. Another alternative. You could just do this by itself. Just don't crash into the G string. Then you don't get the inner note, but that's a possible way to do it. Now, I'm going to do it the way I do it here with the thumb over the top. Mother Mary. Now this next move is critical. With your third finger, you're going to go to the 8th fret. Your thumb is coming over here to the 4th string, and you're going to go. Going to slide that third finger down. Mother Mary. Can you hear how the melody is syncopated and hitting it a different time than the thumb? The thumb is staying very straight, so it's going. The thumb is like where I would clap my hands. Boo be be boo 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 doo. Ba 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 boo 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 doo. So the thumb is staying very steady. And I'm even keeping my second and third finger. When I do this first finger, I'm muting either 1 or 2 strings up there. Okay, so I tried this with the 4th finger, and the phrasing never sounded quite right, and it actually felt rather uncomfortable. But that pull-off, the slide down with the 3rd finger feels very bluesy, and it's easy to do over and over again without getting tired. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to play the intro and this first phrase for you. So we'll see what we've got so far, okay? Intro. 1, 2, ready, and. Verse. Okay, so that's what we've got so far. We're pretty much just playing the melody and some basic rhythm in the bass that will hopefully mimic the rhythm that Paul McCartney is playing on the piano at that time. Let's go to the next lesson. We're going to do bars 3 and 4 of the verse. All right. Welcome back. We are at bars 3 and 4 of the verse, and this is goes with the lyric, speaking words of wisdom, let it be, bam, bam, bam. And you'll be happy to know that this is a move that's going to happen over and over again in the song. So by learning these 2 bars, you're actually learning quite a lot of this arrangement. Okay, so we left off with a first finger on that 3rd string, 5th fret. Here's where we're going to do that funny A shape. You're going to leave that note down. And now watch. Speaking. So the first one of that, speaking, we want to hammer that note. And this is that A shape where I've got my 2nd, 3rd finger and my 1st finger snooked in on the 3rd string. And you know, the beauty of it, I mean, it's a little rough sounding, but with the way that I'm doing this technically, what I've been showing you, using your 3rd finger to mute that string, I can be almost like a bass player. I can be rather sloppy, which meaning I can take a big finger stroke. I can nail the melody, or you can, hopefully, nail the melody in rhythm without having to worry about being careful and plucking. You don't have to play like this. This is how my technique has developed, but even with Let It Be, what I'm striving for is total rhythmic accuracy. There will speaking words of wisdom, let it be, bam, bam, bam. So I don't want to compromise on the rhythm. So this technique of being a little bit more like a bass player helps me rhythmically. Okay, so speaking, right? Hammer on words of, that would be better. Speaking words of wisdom. And now another thing that I'm having to do here, I'm moving this first finger down, and it's turning into the upper half of what looks like an E chord. I'm using the tip of my second finger to mute that A string, and I'm also muting over here because we don't want this note in the E chord. I'm very consciously muting that fifth string. Okay, next. You're going to pull out, let it, that's a pull off. Now watch, third finger. Okay, now that was a little, there's a syncopation between the thumb and the fingers. Let it be, let it be. So right after you pluck that, you've got to come down on the... See where that thumb is falling in between? Let it be. Now, those two notes are the same note, but the reason I fingered it like that was to mimic the sound of the words. Because let it, and then be, that is a little harder of an attack. So that's just what I did instead of let it be, let it be. That sounds more like the words. Okay, so let me show you what's happening there. You're going to hold that with your first finger, then on the fifth string, as that's ringing, fourth finger, second finger, in the same fret that your first finger is playing. So when you're playing the ba, that bass note is the first note of ba, bop, bop, ba, bum, 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 bum. So this one, as with all the pieces, it's extremely important to keep track of your bass line. We don't want extra bass notes ringing. We're actually making a bass part. So it's like speaking words of wisdom, let it be. Okay, so if you've ever studied arranging with me, you'll know that I say get the melody, get the bass, and fill the middle in. You'll notice that we're getting the most meat with the right hand on the melody and on the bass, and we're just kind of grazing and grabbing a few middle strings. Sometimes I'm plucking with my first and third finger on the fourth and second string. Sometimes I'm just using one finger and a thumb. Okay, so this is a tricky move, this. you may have to, a lot of people who are not pro players often have a hand position like this. See in the left hand? And then that's going to be very hard. So you may need to bring your I'm rotating and I'm bringing my pinky up. It almost feels like I'm putting my pinky a little bit more towards the ceiling. At first that feels unnatural because everybody wants to play like this. But watch what I'm doing. I'm rotating this way. See, so see I'm rotating and I'm getting that pinky up there so that I can have a nice curve in the pinky when I go. Okay, I'm going to play just the verse for you now, not the intro, but the entire verse from When I Find Myself in Times of Trouble. Okay, 1, 2, ready, and. Okay, let's go on to the second half of verse 1. All right. Welcome back. In this video, we're going to cover bars 5 through 8 of the first verse of Let It Be. Now, what I really suggest you do, because it'll make it much faster to learn this, is rather than glue yourself to the tablatures, listen to the original song, because all I'm doing is making a few minor changes to make it sound like the melody that Paul McCartney is singing. So the first one is, the first verse that we covered in the last video is, when I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me. Sorry, I don't have a great voice today. Now this second part of the verse goes, and in my hour of darkness, she is standing right in front of me. Okay, so we want to make it sound like that. And if you have the sound of the song in your ears, that would be the best thing to guide your fingers. Paul actually sings some very interesting rhythms that are like in the cracks of perfect rhythm that are very personal and human sounding. And I mean that sincerely. Like Michael Jackson does that, Paul McCartney does that. It's this very human stuff that you can't write exactly on music paper. But I try to come up with a system. So the first thing is you're going to go, and in my hour of darkness. So I'm going, the rhythm is actually, and in my doom, 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 and in my hour of darkness, and in my sorry if I'm going fast and just playing intuitively, but this is a leap where you're going to have to rely on your musical instinct. And in my hour of darkness, ba-da-da-da-da-da-da, check it, ba-da-da-da-da-da-da. See where my thumb is falling? Then, standing, the rhythm is a little bit different here. Standing right in front of me. Ba 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 da ga da. I think that's what it is. And in my you can do that if you want. So if you have an idea of the lyrics, you can sort of practice and use that as a reference point. And then, you know, I play this a little differently each time, kind of like a blues. I never really do it exactly the same way twice, but I have the lyrics in mind when I'm playing. So first verse, when I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me. Now for in my hour of darkness. Or either one is fine. Now the beautiful thing is, this is the same. The only thing you might want to change up from time to time on that last little closing, speaking words of wisdom. When he sings the word speaking, he's going. You hear the rhythm? But if he sings there will be an answer, he goes, there will be an answer. That comes later on. So that's a little rhythm that you can vary. Making these little variations really makes people feel like they're hearing Paul McCartney's voice. Those are some of the comments I got on YouTube. So I try to just look for a few characteristic little rhythms or slightly different melodic leaps to sort of just have a little thing that I can remember to get the character of the verse. So let's do this second, bars 5 and 6 again. And in my hour of darkness, okay. So your shortcut is to listen to the original, go on YouTube and check it out, and absorb the lyrics. So what I'll do here, I'm going to play the first verse from the beginning all the way through to the end. So it's an 8-bar verse. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now hear the new part. Same thing. And then that's going to bring us to the chorus. So let's go to the next video and do bars 1 and 2 of the chorus. All right. All righty, welcome back. Let's get started with the hook of Let It Be. We left off with speaking words of wisdom with this bass line here, bum, bum, bum. Now the next move is going to be this. You're going to play a chord and you're going to fret the pinky here. And you're going to pull off the first finger, but over here on the right hand, I'm only plucking the 6th, 4th, and 2nd string, and I'm muting on the high E string. And the only reason that we're playing the pinky is as an insurance policy. I'm not actually plucking that pinky note with my right hand. It's just if I left the open string, there's the potential of a very sour sounding note. So by fretting that note, in case we bump into it, it's the same as the open B string. So it just ensures a more agreeable sound in case our right hand is not 100% accurate. Let it. Next move, I do thumb over the top and 4th and 3rd string all in the 5th fret. Now I like that, and with the index finger I'm strumming the 4th and 3rd string. And I'm going boop, boop. Okay. The groove we're going to try to do is boom, boom, chick, boom, boom, chick, boom, boom, with a little bit of a back click. we're going to see if we can get that. Now, I understand this thumb over the top is not comfortable for many people, especially nylon players. So if you're not really comfortable with doing that, don't worry. You can just do it like this. Do it with your second and third finger and just leave that a D string out. If you're adventurous and you want to try, sorry, there was that bad note I was talking about. See? If you're adventurous, you could try the first finger back there. What I don't recommend is stacking the fingers 1, 2, 3. I really don't recommend that because stacking the fingers like this, the low string tends to buzz because the first finger is too far back in the fret. Okay, so bass, bass. Now I don't really think I click there, but it's just a reference point. Then I do click there. Let it, and now watch. So you're going to hammer on the third finger and either at the same time fret this or immediately after. The chord that this is supposed to represent, it's the top of an E chord with that melody note, but we don't need all these notes in the bass. And I'm just kind of muting over here a little bit. Okay, next we're going to, with a back strike, play our pinky at the 8th fret. And look at what I did here. I muted all these other strings, very much like what a rock player does. See, I'm strumming all the strings here, nice and sloppy, but we're only hearing the second string, because if I wasn't muting, it would sound like that. Okay, next, third finger. Slide, pull off, and then thumb. That rhythm that we're now doing on the G string is a little tricky, so let it be, let it be. Don't. And it's very hard to be clean with the right hand when we're doing that. In fact, I'm kind of amazed that I'm playing it cleanly. I guess I practiced it. But the trick is, a lot of the trick is, as it has been, to play sloppy but mute strings you don't want. So by the time I'm doing that, I'm kind of muting the top 2 strings. And you see this left hand, I'm muting all the strings under it. A very common trap that beginner players fall into is when they look at a tab, they'll very cleanly play it, and then there'll be all these strings, unwanted strings ringing, because you can't really show the muting in the tablature. That's why I'm showing it to you on video. Okay? So next, let it be. Now, next, the move for let it be. Let it be. Saying it a little out of tune. This is a rather complex move, but with practice you'll get it. 3rd and 4th finger, 7th fret, and you're going to slightly bar the 1st and 2nd finger on, the 1st finger on the 4th and 5th string. So it's like you're playing here and then you're slightly barring the same strings, but I'm doing just a partial bar. because we're gonna need the B string to be free. So watch what you're gonna do. That's the first move. Playing both at the 7th fret, thumb and index over here, pulling the pinky off, then lift the 3rd finger, pivot. So I'm playing and then hammering that on. And then hold that 2nd finger. So we're getting the bass notes, bum, bum, bum. So let it be, let it be. You really have to turn out to get out of the way. Now, I did something a little bit different in the YouTube video, but I find this to be much friendlier. And then you just do a little filler strum there. Okay. Let's do the hook up until there. 1, 2, 3. And when I'm going the A chord, I'm keeping the 2nd finger there, and I'm playing the 1st finger on the 3rd and 4th strings. If that's uncomfortable, I bet you could switch to the 1st finger only, and it would sound fine. See? There's a little bump in there, but watch this. Switching fingers, you don't even hear it. One more time, hook. Alrighty, let's go on to bars 3 and 4 of the hook. All right.